In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the top 4 lies I've come across in the world of self-publishing. Now, you might have come across some of these before, but more than likely not all of them. So make sure you stay till the end so you're not stuck believing these lies that are so rampant among the community of self-publishing. I'm Denis with Weekend Publisher, and before we get into them, if you're new here, which is probably accurate, that you're probably new here because this is a brand new channel. Very first video, in fact, I talk all about the ways to profitably market and self-publish your books. If that sounds interesting to you, then subscribe and like the video. It goes a long way for a brand new channel like mine. Now, these lies are taken from my experience self-publishing on my own and my very first time back in the middle of 2017. And I've still been hearing the same myths or lies from then to today. So myth number 1 is self-publishing is for people who have no talent. So this is sort of referring to that you can't get your book isn't good enough to get on with a traditional publisher, so you have to go the self-publishing route. And this one, in my opinion, is completely false. It doesn't really depend on 2 or 3 people at these traditional publishing houses to tell you if you have a good book or not. That's not the proper validation. The validation should really be from within. But next to that, I really believe it's the market that decides. It's not, again, those 2 or 3 people in the traditional publishing house. It's the thousands of people that are going to be reading your book. They decide if your book is a good one or not. And we're going to be talking a little bit more in the next myth about the traditional publishing route, but there's really only 2 reasons why people would really want to go the traditional route, in my opinion. I mean, there's lots of other reasons, but there's 2 main reasons, in my opinion. One, that person wants validation. So they want someone credible, someone with authority in the industry to say, yes, you do have a good book. So when they're constantly sending their manuscript to traditional publishing houses and they keep getting rejection, that really hurts the ego. And eventually you're like, you know what, maybe my book isn't good enough to be out there. And that usually is not really the case. And reason number 2 is they just don't want to be bothered with marketing. And if that is you and you don't want to be bothered with marketing, certainly stick around this channel because we're going to be talking a lot about marketing. And just going back to the first option there, the most famous sort of example is Stephen King with his first book, Carrie. And he ended up getting 30 rejections from traditional publishing houses. This was back in the 70s and things were very different. Self-publishing, maybe it was around, but it certainly wasn't, as popular, as common as it is today. But 30 rejections. Was that a bad book? No. Went on to sell millions of copies, turned it into a movie. So that's myth number 1 debunked. Myth number 2 is self-published books equals low quality production. And yeah, there are some, because the barrier to entry to self-publishing is so low, it's absolutely nothing. You do get a lot of people in the industry that sort of give it a little bit of a bad name. They throw out kind of garbage that's not edited properly. It's not marketed properly. They have a cover that just looks really amateur, and that kind of gives the whole industry a little bit of a bad name because the barrier to entry is so low. But there is some very, very notable and successful books that were originally self-published. For example, The Martian from Andy Weir. We all know how that went. He's first self-published it, then he got picked up by a publisher who gave him a very, very large advance. And of course, it was turned into a movie, and a really good movie, and of course there's a really good story as well. Another example is, maybe this isn't the best example of quality, but 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. The quality might not be there, but you can't deny the marketing and how that kind of took off. And then another third example that I can talk about is A.G. Riddle. And I'm very familiar with the sci-fi space, and he does have a very successful series he self-published as well. And I've heard him speak in one of these Amazon weekly or monthly talks. And he does have a series that is very, very successful. He has several series, but one of his series, Long Winter, sci-fi trilogy, he's just killing it, and he's self-published as well. So no, it's absolutely false that all self-publishing, if self-publishing automatically means that it's low quality content. That's absolutely not true. And myth number 3 is that self-publishing is free. 3 is free. 3 is free. Wow, I didn't even mean for that to happen. It rhymes. This one particularly bothers me because it sets a lot of people up for a great amount of like sticker shock. So people say, yeah, just self-publish it. It's gonna be completely free. And yes, that is partially true. Like just to take your manuscript and throw on a cover onto Amazon, it is completely free. Amazon doesn't charge you anything to do that. However, if you want to upload a quality book, you're gonna have to invest some money into it. And again, I harp about this a lot in my Facebook group, and I'll link that down below if you join my Facebook group. Previously did a lot of like Facebook Lives in the group, but it's a business. When you offer something for sale online, you are now a business. So a business needs money to invest. That means, cutting back on whatever expenses, speaking with your partner, seeing what money you can use to invest in your business, into your future, into your self-publishing business. So I'm talking about editing and the cover are the two big things. Yeah, you can get away with doing it really, really budget in terms of like, I'll be talking about this in different videos as well. But you can join like writing groups and do some swaps. And you might be able to do some swaps for some services with like some book cover designer, especially if you have some other skills like website design or something like that. You might be able to swap some services. I'll talk about that in a different video. But this myth that is completely free is in most cases absolutely false. If you actually want to put something online that's going to sell, you can put something on for free. It doesn't mean that it's attractive for readers to buy it. If you want to put something online that is going to sell and is going to jumpstart your author career, you're more than likely going to have to invest some money into it. And myth number 4 is that it's impossible to market your book as a self-published author. And this one is so false, it's not even funny. Yes, if you go the traditional publishing route, they can leverage their publishing name. They can leverage their email list. They can leverage other fans from other authors in that same publishing house. But as self-publishers, the market is growing so much. There's these other opportunities that we can use to market our books. And one of the big ones is using what I call OPLs, or other people's lists. So I'm sure you heard the phrase before, if you've been around marketing and all, you heard the phrase before, the money is in the list. And that absolutely is true. And when you're first starting out, you have a list of 0. You might have some family, friends, coworkers and stuff, but essentially it's gonna be 0. So what we can do is leverage OPLs, or other people's lists. And yes, it's gonna cost us some money, usually like under $100, unless we're talking about something like BookBub. But BookBub is essentially the prime example where you could say, hey, you know what, here's a little bit of my money, or with BookBub, here's a fair amount of my money, but you promote my book to your list. And in BookBub's example, it can go as much as, I think as last I saw was like 3.7 million people that have signed up with BookBub, saying that they're interested in crime fiction. That's just an insane amount of people. 3.7 million people. And yes, you pay for that, but yes, you're gonna get that back in spades. You're gonna get that back in returns in terms of readers and read-through rate and all this other stuff, and email signups. And I'll be talking all about this in this channel, so make sure you sign up. But that was myth number 4 debunked. Those were the top lies self-publishers are told. Did I miss one? Do you agree with how I debunked them? Do you disagree? Comment below. And before you leave, remember to subscribe to see more helpful content in the future, to discover how to profitably market and self-publish your books. I'm Denis with Weekend Publisher, and I'll see you in the next one.